Hey guys, if you watch my channel, you know that one of the reasons I shoot Fujifilm cameras is because I love the out of the camera JPEGs. I normally just shoot the standard film simulation. I usually, if I do use the other film simulations, I'm usually using Acros, which is a black and white film simulation, which I really like. But more times than not, I'm just shooting in standard mode. And I wanted to show you guys, I shoot JPEG 98% of the time, but I'm always also capturing the raw file because you never know. If you really screw up an exposure, that raw file is going to save you. As good as Fuji JPEGs are, they're just, if you really bomb a photo, they're just not good enough to recover. But what I normally do is I'm gonna show you guys two examples. One is a normal exposure, meaning that the exposure was good. It's just there's some shadows that have to be boosted in order to get the photo the way I want it. And I typically do this in an application on my iPad. I'll use either Lightroom mobile or something like that. Boost the shadows, make some small tweaks to adjust the photo, maybe some vignette, and then I'll just upload it to Google Photos, put an album out there for, again, family pictures. But every once in a while, I screw up, right? So the second photo here is one that I botched. I don't know if I was using, and these are from a few years ago, but I don't know if I was using a flash and it didn't fire, or if I was, just trying to get the ambient. And yeah, my son, I'm shooting at a pretty high ISO too. Let me see if I can find, and I don't know Capture One. I'm using Capture One so that you guys can see the best raw processing. I don't know it very well. I'm not very good at post processing in general. I'm really bad at Capture One. I can barely find my way through the normal exposure settings and sharpening tools, but I really suck. So this isn't a tutorial by any means for Capture One. I just wanted to use it because it is the best raw processing application for Fujifilm. So I have both the JPEG out of the camera JPEG and the raw files here for both photos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to recover both of them, and you're going to see that for a normal picture, if you're boosting some shadows, the JPEGs are just fine, but you never know when you're going to screw up a picture. Now, this one wasn't a picture that we had to have or anything. I just thought it was a good example. But if it was that perfect shot, but you really screwed up on the exposure, a raw file is really going to save you. And sometimes when I'm doing the post-processing, I won't even save the raw files. If all of my JPEGs are good, again, family photos only, that I know that I'm not going to be doing any readjustments and fine adjustments on them, I'll go ahead and pitch the raw files when I go and reformat the memory card. So we're going to start off with the first one. Now this was taken at Nassau, and both of these are on the same trip. The other one was on the cruise ship. This one was taken in Nassau. They had these cool horses and buggies, and the drivers would give you a little a ride around town, and they had the horses dressed up pretty cool, or at least this one did. And the first picture here is a JPEG, and I'm going to go into this adjustment, not lens correction. Again, guys, I don't know what the hell I'm doing in Capture One. I'm looking for my exposure. Oh, there it is. And I'm going to boost the shadows. And for whatever reason, in Capture One, if you boost in JPEG, it doesn't let you go very high. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust all the way to 100%. And I probably would go a little bit brighter on the shadows typically if I was doing it on my iPad, because Lightroom will let you go a little bit more on shadows on JPEGs. And I don't know if there's some kind of sensitivity of losing data, because JPEGs just don't have the data that the raw files. That's just plain and simple. Never claim that they do, but this is good enough for me. I would boost the shadows and maybe add some vignetting. I'm going to add I'm going to see what it's going to look like, just adding a little vignetting. I don't know if I would or not. No, I think it looks good the way it is. And I don't, again, family photos on vacation, I might have hundreds of them. I'm not getting crazy with it. like I would a portrait, or if I took a cool landscape, I would do some more tweaking, but not these quick snapshots. And the guy here isn't even looking the right way. I usually don't, I'm not going to bug people to get the perfect shot. What I do is I would crop this photo in right here, and move this guy out just because he's looking the wrong way. But for this tutorial, it's not needed. And I'm going to go back to the raw file, and I'm going to boost the shadows of the raw file. And as you can see, I'm going to go to 100% on the raw file. You can see that it'll let me go much higher, actually more than I would like. I'm going to go down a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to go down. I'm just looking at my JPEG. I'm going to try to match the JPEG just because I want to show you a comparison between the two photos. And typically, I could go higher on the shadows. It's just Capture One won't let you. So I'm just going to go back and forth. Now the other thing, I do like the JPEGs, and one of the things that you'll notice, it's a little bit more contrasty now that I've bumped up the shadows on both. And I really like that. And I was playing with this last night, and I actually could not get, and again, I am not very good at Capture One, I couldn't get the raw file to look as good as the JPEG for me. I like that little bit of touch of contrast, and when I add a little contrast and saturation, I'm going to add a little bit now. It gets it closer, but not quite to what Fuji's doing out of the camera. So I'm going to keep on going back and forth. This is the raw file, and then this is the JPEG. Raw file, JPEG. And then now I notice that there's a little bit more of a punchy of a color tone. So I'm going to see if I add a little contrast to see what that'll do. It helps if I'm on the right picture, right? So go back to the raw file. I'm going to add a little. Oh, okay, I did add a little contrast to it. Maybe I added a little too much. That's pretty close. I'm not going to get it exact, but that's pretty close. I know the bottom one, I got the shadows bumped up. Yeah, see, again, it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's pretty close. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see the quality. Now, this is the JPEG. I'm going to go where I pulled up the shadows on the horse. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in like 300% might be a little bit much. We'll see what we look at 200%. And the raw files could probably be sharpened a little bit. They look pretty good, but I'm going to go and try to sharpen the raw files just a little bit if I can find it. I just had it up. There it is. So let me go ahead and sharpen this a little bit. It looks like it defaulted to some sharpening, 140. So there is some sharpening in here. I'm going to sharpen it just a little bit more. Yeah. So you have to look very close to see if there's any difference between, as far as image details between the raw file and the JPEG. I'm going to look at certain small details, maybe in this little strap here. I'm going to see if I can see any details. So you get to look really close at 300%. I can tell by looking at this leather strapping that there's a little teeny bit more detail on the raw files. Not much at all. And this is zoomed in, I'm sorry, at 400%, not 300%. This is at 400%. It's just, that's pulling up the shadows. You don't really need more than that. I mean, if you printed this even at a huge, 16 by 19 or anything, maybe even larger, you're not going to see that at all. And this is just a few stops pulling up shadows. This isn't crazy, 5, 6, 7 stops. But if it's a couple stops that you're making some normal adjustments, I'll call them, because some of these cameras, it's great to have the high dynamic range, and I do love that. But if you get your exposure decent, especially with the mirrorless cameras, you know what you're getting when you're looking at your viewfinder. You're only a couple stops off. And when I say off, either you bomb a couple stops if you're shooting in manual and the light changes real fast, or you need to boost some shadows or pull down your highlights. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I'll do is again push down the highlights, pull up the shadows, maybe add some vignette, but that's pretty much it. Now that's the typical picture. That's doing everything you're supposed to right with a little bit of variance. This picture is just the opposite. I bombed this one. Totally screwed up. It's pixelated. I don't know. I'm not good at Capture One. I'll pop it in here afterwards to tell you what the ISO is. But it looks like I'm getting pretty high in ISO. If I had to guess without even looking at this picture, and if I knew more about this, I'd be able to click on a button and show you on the screen. But I'll put it up after I look at the photo itself. I'm guessing probably 3200 ISO, something like that, because I'm seeing a lot of pixels, but a lot of noise. I'm sorry, in the photo. So let's look. As you can see, they're both about the same. What we're going to find out is they're not the same once we start really boosting things up. And let's go ahead and do that. First of all, I'm going to boost these shadows. And I'm going to boost them quite a bit. On the JPEG, I'm going to boost it as far as it'll go. Yeah. And on the RAW file, I'm going to boost it until I like it. Now this is one where it needs more... It needs a little more than it can actually give, because and I can go a lot more on the RAW file, but I don't want to go that much. About right there for now. Now in this typical picture, I probably would, and I don't know Capture One very well. I probably would put a gradient filter around my sun, have him a little bit more exposed, drop the background a little bit, but I'm sure you guys don't want me to see me fiddling around with Capture One and trying to figure that out. It can do it. I don't know how to do it offhand. I know it's this gradient filter here, but I always get it. No, that's remove spot. But anyways, getting back to this. Now, what we're gonna see is when I start see this kind of an orange cast on the JPEG, and that's because of the JPEG itself. I'm going to try to fix the color, but when you're trying to adjust for white balance and color accuracy, JPEG is not your friend, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. So let's go into color, and I'm going to move up the I don't know what tint is, but I'm going to change the kelvins. I'm going to make it a little cooler. See, it's not doing much of anything. Still nothing. Yeah, I got nothing. Well, there it goes. But it's odd though. It went, but it in the chandelier, I'm almost getting like a weird cast. And see, this is outside of exposure and detail, the white balance, it's hard to change white balance, if not impossible to change white balance in JPEG to get your shot right. RAW, you got lots of room to change, or actually in white balance, I think you have unlimited room to change. So let's switch over to white balance, or my RAW file, sorry. I'm going to do a little bit of adjustments. Oh, yeah, you can see that I have huge ranges to adjust on white balance. I can go ice cold, and I can go real hot, so maybe a little warmer. And this is one where, again, if I knew how to do those gradient filters a little bit, what I probably would do is take my son for the skin tones, and this isn't bad, but I probably would change the white balance for him a little different than the surroundings, because I kind of like that um, incandescent yellowish type of light in the back, and I still have that. That's why I'm not trying to go too much on the left, too much on the white scale or the blue scale. So I think this is good for now. And let's go into the uh, the sharpening, which is, drum roll. Here we go. And I can look at this, and Capture One's got this, and I think the other ones as well too, but gives you that 400%. I can adjust that as well if I want to see. And I'm going to start, for this one, I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. I'm going to see what I have to work with here. Okay, and here's my JPEG. You can already see that the JPEG is just not gonna work out well. But let's start with the JPEG. I'm gonna go and try to sharpen it here, and it's not doing well. And I'm sure, again, I'm not a very good post-processing person. Someone with better skills than me, I'm sure, would do much better of a job. But I have like nothing here as far as, if I go any more sharpened, it's just going to look really, really bad, much worse. So I'm going to try messing with the radius here. See if I can just smooth things out just a little. And as you guys can see, I got nothing. It's not really doing anything. What I have is what I have, basically. Try the threshold. Nope, nothing. I don't even know what this Halo SUPPR is, but I'm game. Nope, nothing. We have some noise reduction here, luminance. Now this typically is helpful. Let's see if it'll do anything on JPEG. Yeah. And this is kind of smooths it. Now it's not going to make it as sharp, but it's kind of blending, and I don't know if this is official, but it's kind of blending and smoothing things out. It helps a little bit. And details, I don't know if this is going to matter. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Color, I don't know what this does, but I'm game. Not really doing anything. Single pixel. Yeah, I think we're pretty much what we have is this. Now, this isn't horrible. I mean, if you're printing this from grandma, or you're putting it on Google Photos and it's just something that you want to remember this moment, fine. But it's not anything you're going to print, or I wouldn't even call this a good quality. Much better than where we started. I'll give it that. But let's go ahead and come back in and see what we can do with this raw file. Zoom in a little bit more, maybe 200%. Yeah, 200%. And we're going to get in here into sharpening. I'm going to try sharpen and see what sharpening is going to give me here. It's already sharpened a bit. I don't want to get crazy with it, because if I get crazy with it, it's going to look odd. So I'm going to maybe give it a little bit more. 188. Let's see where we go with this. Now the radius. See how the radius is actually doing something now, but doing too much of something. I'm just doing this by eye, seeing what I like as far as smooth versus harsh pixelation. Can't really tell. I like it a little bit more on this side. think. Threshold. I don't even know what threshold does either. And this is just an example of an everyday guy here. If you guys have any suggestions, I'm all up for it. But again, I'm not trying to save this photo. This isn't even one I like that much. It's just I thought it would be a good example. Let's see if this Halo SUPPR does anything now that we're in a raw file. Because I probably should read up on this a little bit. I don't see it doing anything on the raw file either. I don't see any change. Now luminance is, I think, where we're going to pick up most of the help here. Okay, this is a lot of luminance and then backing off. Oh yeah. And it takes a couple seconds for capture one. Maybe it's my computer's not the fastest. I have a 21-inch iMac, but I'm kind of liking that. Details. I'm thinking that this probably is not going to be too shabby. Color. Yes, most of these times I move these sliders and I can't tell a damn difference. Outside of the normal luminance, sharpening, and radius. Those are usually the two that I probably should do a little bit more reading up. And that's one of the reasons I like Fujifilm JPEGs, is because I'm not a person that likes post very much. I probably should train myself, because if I ever want to go semi-pro or pro, I'm going to need some work. But it's not fun for me to sit and post-process hundreds of images. So yeah, let's come out. Let's see what we got compared to this JPEG. Oh yeah, I think we can work on the color a little bit. It's much better, much different. Let's go to a normal viewing distance and see what we have. So this is JPEG, and there's not much I can do with it as far as color goes. And this is the raw file. There's some work I think we can do with the color. Let me try it at least. I'm gonna go into. Do I want to do tint 5.4? I have to remember where I'm at. Nope. There we go. I had it there for a second. That looks a little bit better. Also, let me see the color. See, I'm like lost with this. Here's saturation. 0. I'm going to see if I boost the saturation up a little bit. Hell, is it even doing anything? See, I don't know. It must not be doing something right. That saturation isn't working. And normally I wouldn't use Capture One for something like this, but again, I'm trying to give you the best rendition or processing of the raw files that I can do. Plus, I guess it's a reason for me to work on Capture One. So black and white. I guess I could turn this black and white, but nah. I don't know, guys. I would normally play with the colors a little bit, but I don't even know really where to start with Capture One. Their whole color thing is a bit different than a lot of other, like Lightroom. It's just not my thing. And let's see if I can at least try to fix the colors a little bit on that Kelvin, since I did it on the raw file. Let's try to change the tint a bit. Oh, nope. It's getting worse. not doing good. So, this is a little bit better. I actually say this is a lot better, but it could still get better. If you guys know what the heck you're doing. If I was in Lightroom, I could do a little bit better of a processing just because I know it more than Capture One. But as you can see, this is really what I wanted to get across anyway, is if you're shooting JPEG, it's going to be good 98% of the time as long as you do your part and you nail your shot. It's going to be nice and sharp, especially on the Fujifilm. The detail is going to be there, and they're usable. I like the way the JPEGs look compared to the RAW. Yeah, why have to mess with post-processing and RAW files if you don't have to? That's my philosophy. But if you really screw up a shot like this one, or you really you need to do a bunch of gain and some cleanup on white balance and ISO pixelation, and RAW is really the only way, and it saves your butt sometimes. If you have that picture, that moment that just happened right, and your settings were off, RAW can save your butt. So that's what I do. I shoot on my Fujifilm X-T2 on one card slot. I shoot JPEG, and the other card slot I shoot RAW. The nice advantage of doing it this way is that if I'm on vacation, I can pop out my JPEG card, insert it in my iPad, work my items, upload them to Google Photos when I'm on vacation, and I'm good to go. I don't have to do this when I get home. But if I need it, I'll tag a picture to say, yeah, go back and do some post-processing work on this one, and then I'll do that when I get home. I'll go into Capture One or Lightroom, and then I'll go ahead and do some post-processing on a few images. If I take 500, I might have 3-4 images that I really wanted, but I thought could get better on post-processing on my home PC. So there you go, guys. I know this is a bit of a longer one. I think I'm almost going to almost a half hour. But I just want to show you guys an example, and if you guys have any hints and tricks on how to learn Capture One better, because it is a good application, I just don't know it, and I want to get to know it. I did buy it for like $100 and some. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching another one of my crazy long rambling on videos, and thanks again. I hope this helps somebody out there. But it's a 30-minute way to say shoot both, but JPEGs are fully usable. Take care, guys. Thanks. Bye.